We begin this hour in Syria. The regime backed by Russian air support continues its advance in rebel-held eastern Aleppo as heavy fighting continues on several fronts. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the regime has seized 5 new districts near the old city. This week, US and Russian diplomats will meet in Geneva to discuss an evacuation plan for civilians and injured fighters. Well, regime forces have captured more than 70% of the opposition-controlled areas in the eastern part of the city. The rebels lost this territory, which is shaded in dark red, over the last 2 weeks. It's reported that the regime is now targeting rebel-held parts in the old city, shown here in green. Well, we spoke to an activist in eastern Aleppo. He describes the dire situation in the embattled city.
This last 3 weeks for advancing from regime and the militias of Iran and Iraq and the Hezbollah on the ground, and from the sky Russians, which destroyed all these neighborhoods. People are now suffering about fleeing from their homes. They lose everything. They lose even the stored food, which they stored it for the next days. Right now, bread at least it's not available. 1 kilogram for 2 days for every family, and that can't be enough for any human. The weather is so cold and people can't find things to get some warmth. Some of people buying old furniture for warming, for burning it in the fireplace for some warmth. In our neighborhoods in the western of East Aleppo, now crowded by the people who fled from the eastern side of the city, because these numbers of people who fled to here and the crowded buildings that might be causing increasing the numbers of the victims in any airstrikes may happen on the neighborhood.
Syrian activists describing the humanitarian situation on the ground in Aleppo. Let's go to our correspondent Sandra Gathmann, who is following developments in the fight for Aleppo. She's on the Turkish-Syrian border. Sandra, where are we in terms of the regime taking Aleppo?
Well, Marlene, the Syrian regime appears closer than ever in this 6-year-long war to taking the last opposition-held urban stronghold of East Aleppo. The Syrian forces on the ground, with the help of Russian airstrikes and Shia militia, have seen huge momentum. They've made extremely rapid gains over the last several weeks, taking as much as 70%, although it could be higher, of that formerly held rebel territory. And the strategy is very clear, the aim being to push in and isolate that northern part of East Aleppo, effectively trying to create 2 enclaves of rebel-held territory, and they appear closer than ever to achieving that. Yesterday, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Syrian forces managed to fully capture the Al-Shar neighborhood, despite the opposition denying that they've fully claimed that and say that they're still fighting to hold on to it. Now, in the meantime, despite defiance from all sides, all players in this conflict, against all the odds, diplomatic efforts continue to try to find some kind of negotiated settlement to at least allow the possibility of humanitarian aid into East Aleppo. But that doesn't seem to be the case. The fighting still is ongoing and intensifying. Now, without that negotiated settlement, according to the UN's Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, Aleppo could fall into regime control, full regime control, by December.
As you say, the rebels have said several times that they don't plan on giving up the city. But if it does fall, and it looks like it might, to the Syrian regime, what are the options left for the rebels?
We've been asking the opposition the same thing, and although they remain defiant about fierce battles yet to come and the fact that they are preparing for even more intense battles ahead, they do concede that if Aleppo falls, that their revolution will continue and that this is only a territorial loss for them. And we have seen the battle intensify elsewhere in Syria. Yesterday, Idlib province, another rebel stronghold, was heavily attacked by Russian airstrikes. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights monitoring group, more than 300 civilians were killed in several areas, more than 1,000 injured. So the fight does continue, but at what humanitarian cost is the question, although the opposition say that this is existential for them. Losing Aleppo would be a huge blow to their campaign.
Okay, Sandra, many thanks for that. Sandra Gathmann there in Gaziantep.